Imagine the man who oversaw the murder of over 1 million people facing the very justice he denied his victims. Rudolph Hus, the commandant of Auschwitz, perfected the machinery of mass murder and turned genocide into a grimly efficient operation. From devout soldier to Auschwitz mastermind, Rudolph Hus was born on November 25, 1900, in the spa town of Baden-Baden, Germany, the son of a middle-class shopkeeper. From an early age, he was known for his strict obedience and sense of duty, traits instilled by his parents, who taught him to respect elders and help those in need. When World War I broke out, Hus was still a teenager, but eager to serve. In 1917, at just 16 years old, he lied about his age and volunteered for the German army. Though too young to see much frontline action, the experience left him with a strong belief in military discipline and nationalism, ideas that would later guide his actions in the SS. After Germany's defeat in 1918, Hus joined the Freikorps, paramilitary bands made up of World War I veterans, tasked with suppressing communist uprisings in post-war Germany. These tough, violent units appealed to young men who felt betrayed by the Weimar Republic and longed for the order and purpose they had known in the army. In November 1922, Hus officially joined the fledgling Nazi Party, NSDAP. Just a few months later, in April 1923, he was implicated in the murder of Walter Kadaw, a former school teacher who had betrayed a Freikorps comrade. Convicted of complicity in the killing, Hus was sentenced to 10 years in prison. However, in 1928, he benefited from a general amnesty that released many right-wing prisoners, including Hus, who immediately returned to Nazi activities. During the late 1920s and early 1930s, Hus deepened his involvement with radical groups. He joined the Ardmannen Society, a Völkisch movement that combined rural back-to-the-land ideals with virulent anti-Semitism. His time in these circles honed his ideological fervor and strengthened his belief in a racially pure Germany. In 1934, Heinrich Himmler recruited Hus into the SS, recognizing his loyalty and harsh discipline. Hus was sent to Dachau, the first Nazi concentration camp, where he served as a block and mustering chief. There he learned the mechanics of running a camp, organizing forced labor, supervising guards, and enforcing brutal punishments. His performance earned him praise and rapid promotion. By 1938, Hus was transferred to Sachsenhausen, another major camp near Berlin. As a senior SS officer, he oversaw training for new guards and helped refine methods of prisoner control and interrogation. These experiences further shaped his administrative skills and hardened his resolve to carry out the Nazi agenda without mercy. In May 1940, Himmler appointed Hus as the first commandant of the newly established Auschwitz concentration and extermination camp in occupied Poland. At barely 39 years old, he was charged with building and managing a facility that would become central to the Nazis' final solution. From the outset, Hus applied a rigorous, factory-like approach to mass murder, drawing directly on his experiences at Dachau and Sachsenhausen. Under Hus's strict command, Auschwitz expanded rapidly. He oversaw the construction of gas chambers and crematoria capable of killing and disposing of thousands of prisoners each day. By 1941, he had begun experimenting with Cyclon B gas, testing its efficiency on Soviet POWs before authorizing its widespread use on Jewish, Roma, and other victims. This cold, clinical approach to killing exemplified Hus's transformation from a young, dutiful soldier to the mastermind of the deadliest death camp in history. Through these steps, volunteering for the army, joining Freikorps, committing political violence, aligning early with the Nazi Party, serving in Dachau and Sachsenhausen, and finally commanding Auschwitz, Rudolph Hus steadily climbed the ranks of the SS. Each stage sharpened his skills, reinforced his extreme ideology, and prepared him to orchestrate one of history's greatest atrocities. His rise illustrates how fanatical belief and bureaucratic efficiency combined to facilitate genocide on an almost unimaginable scale. Imagine being locked in a place so feared that even within Auschwitz, a camp already synonymous with death, it was known as the prison within the prison. Block 11, the death block torture chamber. Block 11 was a brick building with a basement situated between blocks 10 and 11, adjacent to the infamous death wall. This wall became the execution site for thousands of prisoners who were shot after sham trials or no trial at all. The building itself housed various torture chambers, including dark cells, standing cells, and starvation cells. Each was designed to inflict maximum physical and psychological pain. One of the most harrowing features of Block 11 was the standing cell. Measuring approximately 1 square meter, these cells were designed to hold 4 prisoners at a time, forcing them to stand pressed against each other without room to move or sit. A tiny air vent provided minimal ventilation, making breathing difficult. Prisoners were confined in these cells overnight and then forced to perform hard labor during the day, leading to extreme exhaustion and, in many cases, death. Dark cells were completely sealed rooms with no windows or ventilation. Prisoners placed in these cells were left in total darkness, often without food or water for days. The lack of oxygen and sensory deprivation led many to suffocate or lose their sanity. These cells epitomized the Nazis' intent to break the human spirit through isolation and deprivation. In starvation cells, prisoners were locked away without food or water until they died. One of the most poignant stories from Block 11 is that of Father Maximilian Kolbe, a Polish priest who volunteered to die in place of another prisoner. He was confined in a starvation cell and endured 2 weeks without sustenance before being executed by lethal injection. His sacrifice remains a powerful testament to human compassion amidst unimaginable cruelty. Between Blocks 10 and 11 stood the death wall, where thousands of prisoners were executed by firing squad. Before facing the wall, prisoners were often subjected to brutal interrogations and beatings. The executions were carried out in secrecy, with the SS attempting to conceal these atrocities from the rest of the camp. However, the constant sound of gunfire and the presence of bloodstains made it impossible to hide the horrors taking place. Wilhelm Boger, an SS officer known for his sadistic methods, devised a torture device known as the Boger swing. This apparatus involves suspending a prisoner by the backs of their knees over an iron bar, with their wrists shackled to their ankles. The prisoner was then swung back and forth while being beaten, causing excruciating pain and often leading to permanent injury or death. This method exemplified the calculated brutality employed within Block 11. Beyond physical torment, Block 11 was a site of intense psychological torture. Prisoners were subjected to relentless interrogations, often under the threat of death or harm to their families. The SS aimed to extract confessions or information about resistance activities, using fear and pain as their primary tools. Many prisoners, unable to withstand the mental anguish, chose suicide over continued suffering. Block 11 stands as a stark symbol of the Nazi regime's capacity for cruelty and inhumanity. It was a place where the boundaries of human endurance were tested and often broken. The meticulous design of its torture methods reflects a chilling level of premeditation and a complete disregard for human life. Today, Block 11 serves as a memorial, reminding us of the depths of suffering inflicted during the Holocaust and the resilience of those who endured it. As we reflect on the atrocities committed within Block 11, we are compelled to remember the victims and ensure that such horrors are never repeated. The stories of those who suffered and perished there continue to serve as powerful reminders of the need for vigilance against hatred and tyranny. Cyclon B and the gas chambers. They called it a delousing shower, but it was a one-way trip. At Auschwitz, the Nazis perfected a deadly routine by using Cyclon B, a pesticide-turned weapon, to murder hundreds of thousands with industrial efficiency. Cyclon B was first made in Germany in the early 1920s as a pesticide for killing lice and rodents. It consisted of hydrogen cyanide absorbed onto granules of diatomaceous earth, plus an irritant to warn humans of its danger. Before long, the SS saw its potential for mass murder and began testing it on Soviet POWs and sick prisoners at Auschwitz in September 1941. After these grim trials, Cyclon B became the main tool of the final solution at Auschwitz-Birkenau. The Nazis built 4 large gas chambers and crematoria 2 to 5 at Birkenau, each capable of killing up to 2,000 people per hour once fully operational by mid-1943. They converted existing morgue basements and brick bunkers into killing centers by installing gas-tight doors, ventilation shafts for the pellets, and powerful exhaust fans for clearing the gas afterward. The process was ruthlessly methodical, Trains rolled in from across Europe, disgorging terrified families. SS doctors performed a quick selection, sending those unfit for work directly to the chambers. Victims were herded into rooms marked bathhouse, stripped of their clothes, and told to undress for delousing. Once the doors were sealed, guards dropped Cyclon B pellets through ceiling vents. Within minutes, the hydrogen cyanide gas spread through the air, paralyzing the lungs and causing death by asphyxiation. Inside, the panic was unimaginable. Prisoners clung to one another, gasping for air in the crowded, sealed space. After the SS officers declared the chamber empty, Sonderkommandos, prisoners forced into this horror, were ordered to remove the bodies, strip valuables like gold teeth, and dump the corpses into crematorium ovens nearby. These work details lived under constant threat. Once their gruesome task was done, they too were killed in the same chambers to hide evidence of the crime. By late 1942, Auschwitz received over 40 trainloads of Cyclon B each month. In total, approximately 1.1 million people were murdered with this gas at Auschwitz alone, making it the deadliest killing site of the Holocaust. The precise numbers vary, but historians agree that Cyclon B's use marked a chilling leap from murder by bullets or gas vans to systematic industrial genocide. The design of the chambers reflected a cold calculus. The need to maintain a rapid turnover forced the installation of air exchange systems to clear the gas quickly and allow for the next group of victims to enter within an hour. After liberation, Allied forces and survivors found empty canisters of Cyclon B stamped with the producer's name, Digesh, and labels warning, "Don't open poison." These grim artifacts now form part of museum collections, silent witnesses to one of history's greatest crimes. The ghosts of those who entered the chambers still whisper for justice. The gas chambers at Auschwitz remain an enduring reminder that technology and bureaucracy, when twisted by hate, can fuel unimaginable evil. Let us never forget their victims or the lessons of Cyclon B's dark legacy. Human experiments with Yseph Mengele. Imagine a doctor who treated people like lab rats. This was Yseph Mengele's Auschwitz. At Auschwitz, Yseph Mengele earned a grim nickname, the Angel of Death. He arrived in May 1943 as the camp's SS physician and quickly became notorious for the twisted medical tests he performed. Mengele was obsessed with genetics and race. He believed that by studying twins, dwarfs, and people with unique traits, he could prove the Nazi idea of racial purity and improve the so-called Aryan race. Mengele's experiments began with twins. He would walk through the lines of newly arrived prisoners, searching for siblings who were the same age. When he found sets of twins, identical or fraternal, he would pick one to live with the other, sent to the gas chambers. The survivor was forced to endure gruesome tests, injections of lethal germs, removal of organs without anesthesia, and endless blood draws. He measured how diseases spread, how bodies reacted to high doses of radiation, and how organs healed, often causing infections, paralysis, or death. These twins were kept alive in special barracks under Mengele's direct supervision. He compared their bodies closely, using calipers to measure skull size, or comparing eye color to see if he could change it. At times, he would perform surgeries like removing healthy limbs, then wait to see how, or if, the limb would grow back. If the twins survived these tortures, Mengele saw them as proof of his theories. If they didn't, he used their bodies for autopsy and anatomical study. Mengele's cruelty didn't stop with twins. He also targeted dwarfs, people with missing limbs, and anyone with birth defects. He believed that understanding these differences would help the Nazis weed out what they saw as genetic weaknesses. At times, he injected chemicals into prisoners' eyes to try to change their color, and he exposed people to extreme temperatures to test limits of human endurance. Behind Mengele's white coat and polite smile was a void of compassion. He justified his actions by telling himself he was serving a higher purpose, strengthening the human race. Yet his so-called research lacked any scientific ethics or real medical benefit. Records show that more than 3,000 twins arrived at Auschwitz under his watch, and only a few hundred survived the war. Guarding secrets and records, Mengele ensured few outside researchers could study his work after the war. When the Allies liberated Auschwitz in January 1945, they found a trove of papers, instruments, and photographs that revealed the depth of his crimes. Still, many of his most gruesome notes were missing, presumably burned to hide evidence. After the war, Mengele vanished into South America, evading capture for decades. He lived under false names and moved between Brazil, Paraguay, and Argentina, always looking over his shoulder. Despite being one of the most wanted Nazis, he never faced trial. In 1979, he drowned off the Brazilian coast, his death finally closing the chapter on a career built on pseudoscience and the suffering of thousands. The legacy of Mengele's experiments reminds us how science without ethics becomes a weapon of terror. By understanding his crimes, we honor the memories of those who suffered and reinforce the vow that medicine must serve life, never destroy it. Capture, torture, and execution of Hus. He escaped the world's greatest horrors, only to face his own terrifying end. When Rudolph Hus, the man who managed Auschwitz, was finally found on March 11, 1946, it seemed a ghost of history had returned. Hus was living quietly under a false name on a farm in Lower Saxony when British troops arrested him. At first, he denied being the commandant, claiming he was just a gardener. But his captors had more questions than his cover story could answer. Almost immediately, Hus was subjected to harsh interrogation. Accounts suggest he was beaten and tightly bound to extract every detail of the camp's operations. 40 years later, records revealed he had been severely tortured by his captors to secure his own testimony. Under this pressure, Hus began to speak, first in fragmented confessions, then in full statements that laid bare the machinery of genocide he had overseen. By April 1946, Hus was brought to the Nuremberg trials, not as a defendant, but as a witness against other top Nazis. There he described in grim detail the construction of gas chambers, the use of Cyclon B, and the deaths of more than 2.5 million people under his command. His calm delivery of these horrors stunned observers. A man who once ordered mass murder now spoke of it as routine work. In May 1946, Polish authorities took charge of Hus. He was sent to Warsaw and stood trial before the Supreme National Tribunal from March 11th to March 29th, 1947. The prosecution laid out evidence, camp records, eyewitness accounts, and his own confessions. Despite his earlier denials, Hus did not shy away from responsibility. In court, he expressed regret. "I sinned against humanity," he told the judge, acknowledging the terrible wounds he inflicted, particularly on the Polish people. On April 2, 1947, the tribunal sentenced Rudolph Hus to death by hanging. His punishment was set to take place in the very place he had turned into a mass grave, the entrance of the Auschwitz crematorium. Before the sentence could be carried out, Hus requested a meeting with a Catholic priest. He confessed that in the solitude of his cell, he had repented and sought divine forgiveness for his crimes. 4 days later, on April 16, 1947, he was led to the gallows, an anselm of mercy he had never shown his victims. As the noose tightened, Hus looked at the desolate campgrounds he once ruled. His execution was swift. His body dropped into a grave outside the crematoria. The site was chosen deliberately, a final act of justice, making him disappear in the shadow of the death factory he had built. The man who unleashed unimaginable suffering met his own fate at the threshold of his crimes. Rudolph Hus's story reminds us that even those who orchestrate the darkest deeds can be brought to account. His capture, torture, and execution close a chapter of horror, but they also underscore our duty to remember and to prevent such evil from ever rising again. As the gate clanged shut behind Rudolph Hus, it marked the final chapter in a story of horror. Yet our duty to remember and learn from these dark pages has only just begun. Thank you so much for watching our deep dive into the life and ultimate fate of Rudolph Hus, one of history's darkest figures. If this video gave you a new perspective or made you think differently, go ahead and hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe to our channel for more powerful and eye-opening history stories, and tap the bell icon so you never miss a new episode. We'd love to hear from you. What shocked or surprised you the most about Hus's rise to power and the way it all ended? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We read every one of them, and your voice matters. History isn't just about dates and facts, it's about people, choices, and consequences. The more we understand how these moments happened, the better prepared we are to stop them from happening again. It's not always easy to look at the past, but it's necessary. Until next time, stay curious, stay aware, and never stop questioning the world around you.